Greetings, Kane. Can you explain the strategy around the run chase today? Was it based on net run rate, or was it based on?
No. We were trying to obviously win the game, but we didn't do a very good job of it, and it was a tough one really. With the ball, we probably didn't start off great, but naturally, Bairstow and Roy are playing really nicely, and they put away everything and put us under a lot of pressure, and then. I think we saw that at the halfway stage the wicket did change considerably, and we were able to then perhaps pull back what was looking like a much larger total, which was a good effort and a positive for us. But going into that second half, we just needed a couple of big partnerships, certainly from the top order, and it wasn't there. And by no means was it an easy surface to try and gain momentum, but at the same time it was important as a batting unit we were able to try and take the game to a position where you might give yourself a chance to win it, but we weren't able to do that. So moving forward, it is important that we try and learn as a group, individually as well, with some of the experiences we've had in the last week, and hopefully be better for it, hopefully for our next game. We will see.
Kane, that's 3 games in a row where the batting has been pretty disappointing. What positives, if any, can you take out of the last 3 games in that regard?
Yeah, I think the experiences that we've had on some fairly tough surfaces are really important learnings to, I guess, take note of and try and be better for having had that experience. Saying that, obviously it would be nice to be more successful in those situations, but we have seen wickets throughout the tournament change, be very variable in terms of their characteristics, and even change within a game. Having said that, I certainly don't want to take anything away from the way that the England side played. They outplayed us regardless of conditions today, and fully deserved their win. But for us, we're thinking about our cricket and where we can improve, and without a doubt it's trying to take smarter options on some of these tougher surfaces. And none of it really matters now, because we're potentially moving on onto another surface where, if it is tough, then we do need to take some of these lessons forward. If not, we need to be able to go out and play with freedom on what might be a better surface.
Kane, could you believe your luck with that run out?
Luck or
unluck?
Lack of?
What do you think of it?
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? I mean, there was obviously a couple of run-outs and one down the leg side, which certainly isn't the best way to start things off in terms of a tough run chase. But, once again, the English bowlers put us under pressure, and I don't know whether that run out came from that, but, it's one of those things, so you just sort of move on. But everybody coming in, trying to play their role as best they can is what's important. And, today there were some glimpses, and it was great for the likes of Tom Latham to spend some time in the middle, and other guys spend brief moments as well. But we do need to try and take partnerships longer and deeper in terms of making them more significant.
Kane, Johnny Bairstow and Jason Roy have the best strike rates of any openers in ODI history, but also the highest average partnership of any openers that have played, I think, 30 innings by about 15 runs. Is there any opening pair in world cricket that present the challenge that they do?
I'm pretty sure you just told me there isn't. They've been awesome getting their team off to brilliant starts, and their threats go through a long way down their order, and that's one of the strengths of the England side, is the balance and depth that they have in all departments.
Kane, in terms of pace and hostility, how does Jofra Archer compare with some of the other guys you faced in this tournament?
Yeah, he's a very nice bowler, isn't he, in terms of easy on the eye. When you're at the other end, it's obviously more challenging, but he ambles in almost to the crease, and then he's got a really nice snap of his wrist, and obviously generates really good pace. Have played against him in other competitions, and he's obviously been extremely effective and a world-class performer. So, without a doubt, a great addition to any team, but obviously to the England side in this tournament for sure.
Kane, you have a few days off now before that semi-final. Do you reset the complete campaign and just try and start again?
In some ways, that kind of happens on its own. If you're in a knockout stage where it's a semi-final opportunity, where certainly on the day anything can happen, and we know from our perspective that we haven't put out our best performance yet, and we know when we do, that without a doubt gives us the best chance of beating anybody. So it is important for us to perhaps have a couple of days away. We sort of have a bit of a break now. Well, we still don't really know what's happening, do we? But if we're fortunate to be in a semi-final, then we do have a little bit of a break, and we need guys to come back together in terms of our first training and have that freshness to go out and play with the freedom that we know when we do, that does allow us to play our best cricket. So yeah, there's a few parts to it, but I think after round robin it does start fresh to a certain extent, because on the day anything can happen.
You talked about the wicket over here. Just
Sorry, I
no
can't
worries.
see your mouth. You're like,
A ventriloquist. You talked about the wicket changing at the innings break, but actually it seemed to change as soon as Roy and Bairstow were out. Did they just play out of their skin, or did the wicket change that much that quickly?
no, it probably changed about sort of halfway stage of the England innings, but it's also one of those things. They played extremely well, and when they do have momentum, often it can be a big challenge, regardless of the surface, to stop. So, you know, they put us under a lot of pressure and hit through the line nicely. But I think as we saw, that became a lot harder to do when other guys came out to bat later on in the England innings, and it allowed us to stem the flow. Naturally, they were in a very strong position, looking at a sort of a large 300 score. Who knows? But we did pull it back by bowling cutters into the surface, which were much less responsive earlier. So it was one of those things, but they obviously still had a very strong total on the board, knowing the way that the wicket changed. But from our perspective with the bat, you know, regardless of whether you get across the line or not, the importance of trying to build partnerships, adapt to conditions to take the game to a stage to give yourself a chance is what was important and what wasn't there today.
How do you defend against Roy and Bairstow in the first 10 overs, given the restrictions and everything in their record?
Yeah, well, I mean, the stats that were thrown at me before, I don't know if there's an answer. Taking early wickets against anybody that you come up against is obviously the best way to stem momentum. And as we've seen, the wickets have changed a lot. So you get on a surface that is a bit harder to hit through the line, then perhaps it's not as free-flowing, and we know when those two and a number of others in their lineup, to be fair, are going, they can be very difficult to stop, especially on very good surfaces, which generally we do see over in England. So it is a challenge, but I guess trying to be aggressive with the ball in hand to give yourself the opportunity to take those wickets, I think is the best way to try and stop, I guess, anybody from getting away on you. But look, those guys have been playing beautifully well for a long time, but certainly in this tournament as well, under I guess different sorts of pressure, so a big weapon for them at the top of the order.
You kept giving chances to Colin Munro, and now you've gone to Henry Nicholls. And Martin Guptill, would he definitely play, and how do you see the opening situation? What's your thought for the semi-final?
Yeah, we have a number of days before we have to think about perhaps those sorts of things, but I guess Henry's come in and he's only had a couple of knocks, and unfortunately today I think it was going over the top, which is one of those things. So, you know, there are a number of parts to that, I guess, batting innings, which wasn't ideal from our perspective. But we know he's a very good player, and Martin Guptill, we know that when he's on, he's one of the best players in the world. So trying to get that freedom from the batting lineup is, I think, what's really important, certainly if we get on a surface that's a good one, to go out there and take it on. We kind of haven't been faced with that throughout this tournament so far, and there's been a lot of scrappy sort of innings, which has been important for us to get wins. But we haven't had the free-flowing nature of batting, which we probably expected coming into the tournament, but we may be faced with that if we are in a semi-final and if the wickets are different. So just having that open mind where guys can try and perhaps put a line in the sand from round robin play and look to go out and take on a semi-final, which will be a great occasion.
Kane, yeah, Just how difficult is it for a batsman who's out of form and he's coming up against new surfaces and new teams every game? There's no continuity that way.
Yeah, you know, batting has a number of different challenges, and adapting to conditions is one. And you know, I guess often when you haven't spent time in the middle, you're looking to feel good. And I think on a lot of these surfaces, that's been something that's been very difficult to do, even when you've had time in the middle. So I think removing a lot of those thoughts and just perhaps bringing that mindset back to what can I do for the team, rather than how can I feel good or how can perhaps I do this or that. It's what can maybe I do to complement this side and put them in a position of strength, and that is something that's really important within our environment, and we know the guys are certainly working really hard to do that, but it has been very challenging, and I think we've all seen that. So it is important that when we hopefully go on to perhaps get another opportunity as a side, that we go out and take that match on, play with freedom, which is very important for us to play our best cricket, but also play with cricket smarts, because we don't know what the surface has in store for us.
Will Lockie be all right for the semi-final? And did you miss him today?
I always miss Lockie. He's a good man. He's been outstanding throughout this whole tournament, and a real point of difference for us in terms of the way he complements our bowling attack, and coming in and bowling at 150 naturally is a great weapon to have. So did we miss him? Yes, he's been so successful in the last 8 games, but saying that, potentially hopefully in another game's time. So he should be fine. It's a fairly minor injury, sort of just a light hamstring thing, so he should be okay. We have a number of days between now and that game potentially.